for so many people, being afraid to express our needs, it can make us anxious. It can also make us avoidant, right? Because if you don't trust yourself to communicate your needs, then like I give an example. I always struggled in relationships to communicate that, like, I might really like to have a few hours of reading time right now. And that was something that if I was on my own, I would do. But when I felt like I was responsible for somebody else's needs or their happiness, or I was supposed to be entertaining, I would feel like it wasn't okay for me to do that. And the sad part about it is I never even gave someone a chance to support me in that way, because they may have been like, absolutely. Yeah. Like, let me, one of the things that's beautiful about my relationship now is that my wife will say, she'll anticipate those things because she knows me. And so she's like, hey, I feel like you need some time this weekend to just do this or that. And I'm like, wow, I didn't even need, like, that's so nice. She's literally about these things. But in previous situations, I didn't even give someone the benefit of being able to support me because I was too afraid to really voice my needs. Because deep down, I was like, I'm not going to be enough if I'm not constantly there entertaining, doing something, showing up in some way. And I made myself very responsible for somebody else's feelings. And I also felt like, this is getting even deeper, but I felt like if I said I needed to do this, there would be some kind of consequence. Like they would be like, well, if you're going to do that for the next 5 hours, then I'm going to do this for the next 3 days. and like I would be abandoned for having asked for that. And so I didn't, but what that meant was that you can very quickly see the trajectory between that and what looks like avoidance, because you end up saying, yeah, I don't want a relationship, because when you have a relationship, you just don't get to do anything you enjoy doing anymore. So
well, you made your own destiny.
Yeah,
with this.
It's the wall, right? You crash in the wall, because it's what you know. So you end up. I had a woman that I coached, and she was dating a guy that, by all accounts, had been great so far. And then on a Saturday, he got together with his friends during the daytime, little get together at his house, and she got really upset that he didn't invite her. And this was someone who had suffered with a lot of abandonment. So that everything for her, like, he doesn't like me as much as I like him. He's just toying around with me. He doesn't want me to see me. He doesn't want me to be around his friends. All of that. So in the middle of the day on the Saturday, she texted him and she said, why didn't you invite me? Like, there was no intro to that text, nothing. Just, why didn't you invite me? And he said, I'm so sorry. I haven't seen these friends in a while. I was just really looking forward to hanging. Can I call you later? And she said, don't bother. And the 3 days later, he still hadn't called. And she was like, see, this is what happens. Like, I just get hurt. If I date, I just get hurt. Now, of course, you see again, like she had for the wall. Because if we can't find a wall, we'll create one. And she created the wall in her situation. Now, look, she had a right to feel hurt that she wasn't invited and express that to him and for them to have a conversation about that. But the way that she went about it literally precipitated the thing that she was afraid of and confirmed it. And that's the part. And that's why, like, what is going on with people on the surface in their love lives often is so different. And in some cases, the complete opposite of what's really going on inside. And these days, I spent years helping people with, strategy in their love lives. These days, this is some of the stuff that, like, interests me the most, because it's changing when you start to realize these things about yourself. And I think people will read this book and they'll get a level of understanding about themselves and a level of compassion for themselves in that they maybe have never had before. I like, here's an example. Like, when I was a kid, I remember playing in the garden with, like, my brothers and a couple of friends of mine. And I can't remember what happened, Chris, but something upset me. Like, I think mum came out and yelled at me and embarrassed me in front of my friends. Something happened. And I, like, stormed off to my bedroom. And I stayed there in my mind thinking that I was like felt shame. And so I just was like, I want to be in my cave and screw everybody. But I also felt like in some way I was punishing everybody for having, like, hurt me in some way. Not that I ever wanted them to know that they'd hurt me, but And I myself in my room, and one by one, everyone came up and knocked on the door and was like, Matt, come down, like, come hang. You know, my mum, my brothers, my friends, like everyone was sent up to like get me to come back down and have fun because everyone was having fun. I was just like punishing myself. And then I always remember my brothers came up and they said, it was with my friend Alex. We're all going to go to Alex's now. We just had a sleepover at our house the night before. We're now all going to go to Alex's house and we're going to continue the sleepover and we're going to watch movies and we're going to get food. And I was like, just go. Like, I'm good. One by one, everyone came up and tried to persuade me and I didn't want to know. I was like, just go. My mum finally comes up. She's like, Matt, come on, please. Like, come on, don't do this. Like, and I'm like, no, like, just leave me alone. And I stayed home that night while my brothers and my friends went and had this awesome night. And they came back the next day and my brothers came home and it turned out they'd had the best night and it was so much fun. And it like haunted me. That was like, who did I hurt there? Like, they had a great time. No one had it in for me. No one was trying to hurt me. But my inability to express that something had hurt me and that I felt for being hurt, shame for, embarrassed that something had got to me, but my anger felt more righteous and more stronger than my the hurt. So I just robbed myself of this really lovely experience. And when I look at my life, I think, oh my God, like that, you could line through so many experiences in my life where I just robbed myself of moments of joy and fun and love because it's what I did with Audrey in that moment of jealousy. The walls went up and I went, it's easier for me to be mad or to say you're wrong than to just express that something about this has made me feel hurt. And God, if I had to its like extreme, if I'd have not even that many steps further, if I'd have just done that 3 more times with her, she would have been out the door. And then I would have I've been more supported than by this woman. I've never been more loved or accepted than by this woman. And I could have lost her because I shut the door in my room and I told everyone to go away, all because I couldn't express something. That is, to me, it's mind-blowing to me. And those kind of things have become kind of my obsession now.
How can we get better at having hard conversations?
When we have a hard conversation with anyone, it very quickly turns into an ego battle. And if we can come to someone like, let's say any part of life is shaped by the ability to have hard conversations, whether it's friendships, romantic love, familial relationships. If we can't have challenging conversations with each other, the relationship cannot improve. Like, they are forged by difficult conversations. And so many of us are so deeply afraid of confrontation, the rejection or the abandonment that might ensue after a confrontation, or just saying it wrong, that nothing ever gets better. And resentments get buried and boil over into contempt and people implode. And that's when things go really, really bad. So the starting point of any hard conversation is knowing that everything gets better when you can have them. So even if you have them badly right now, having them badly is better than not having them at all. Make up for lack of eloquence with humility. And sometimes you can say to someone, it made me feel strange when that happened. Like, that made me feel strange. And I guess it made me feel strange because, you're really important to me and, what we have is important to me. And that made me feel, when you did that, it felt like it wasn't representative of the energy I want us to have with each other. And maybe you didn't mean it like that. I always think rightly or wrongly is a good phrase. Like, rightly or wrongly, I felt like that was not a great way to come at it.
You're offering the other person the opportunity to help you uncover why you feel that way. I might be in the wrong. I'm open to this not being a you thing. This could be a me thing.
Yeah.
But together,
it's made me feel something.
Together, let's work out, because this is going to continue happening.
Yeah.
And if we don't want this to continue happening, then either we need to investigate what's going on with me or what's going on with you or what's going on with the dynamic.
Yeah. And the target is the target is not the person. It's what we're trying to improve the relationship. And this is getting in the way of our relationship right now, or this is making it difficult. And that can be like in early dating, someone might say you might be in a situation where someone's barely responding to you, and then all of a sudden they tell you like, hey, do you want to do something today? And for you, it's like you almost don't want to enable that behavior, because if you're just grateful to see them and you're like, yeah, I want to see you today. Like, I'm just grateful that you're now asking me out, even though you've been completely inconsistent for the last 3 weeks and I can barely get a text out of you. That's where we go when we don't want to have a hard conversation. And it's also where we go when we're coming from a place of scarcity, is I just am glad that you're now asking me out. But if you wanted to actually say, no, this is a great moment for a quote hard conversation, which might just take the form of a message that says, I haven't really heard from you for the last 3 weeks. I was excited to see you, but I don't, I feel like we may not be on the same page. I was excited to see you 2 weeks ago. Like that's a moment where you're being willing to say the thing that maybe they're hoping you won't say. Maybe they're hoping you won't point out the incongruence between what they're saying and what they're doing. But when you're the one willing to point that out, you give the thing a chance to become what it's truly capable of becoming.
Well, you give it a chance to bounce off and realize that it's not, as opposed to this sort of like fantastical vacuum that you can fill with all of the speculation about why and how and what this means, and that the reason that they said this thing is because of that. And it's a criteria, but you're right. It very much comes from a scarcity mindset. If you believe that nothing better can come from this, that you can't get anything that would ever be better than this, there is no firm footing from you to make your needs known.
Yep. And the trap is that you think by not having the hard conversation, by not challenging a dynamic, that it's somehow safer.
Yeah. If I just do what they want, if I just mold myself around their needs and wants and pathologies and uncertainties and fears and stuff, everything will be fine. It's the children problem. I'm in therapy at the moment, which is why I'm starting to see everything with therapy language. And, another Alain de Botton insight where he says that the people who behave like that in relationships are the ones who didn't feel like they had license to be able to make their needs known as children. Because you maybe had an overly anxious parent, or you had an angry parent, or you had a busy, or you had an aloof parent, or whatever. So what are you going to do? Well, I'm just going to do whatever I need to make mom or dad happy. I want them to be happy. But what you're permanently doing is subjugating your needs in place of making this other person feel okay.
Yeah.